have a question for the carnivore community. Why is coffee accepted and chocolate isn't? Before we all start losing our minds, I know coffee is not carnivore. I also know cacao or chocolate is not carnivore. Neither one of them is carnivore. Technically, allulose, stevia, all these other things that people are adding in aren't carnivore. But we widely accept them and throw the carnivore label on it. And discuss today in the carnivore community is bring this question up and get some thoughts brewing. If coffee gets the automatic pass, where is the line? Where's the line for you? Where's the line for me? Where do we have a line? Or is that a line an illusion? I'm not trying to prove if cacao is carnivore. I'm just trying to ask, do we follow the same principles when it comes to cacao or anything else as we would with coffee in the carnivore space and community? So why does the coffee get a pass? I mean, it's a part of the morning ritual. There's a lot of different arguments of how coffee has so many benefits. Actually, Tony Hampton released a really good video about coffee very recently. The historical kind of events of coffee, and it's really cool. Coffee is like one of the most commonly accepted carnivore passes. Caffeine to get that quick boost of energy. It adds nothing in terms of calories as far as it's black, and a lot of people, studies show that it can curb your appetite quite a bit. But regardless of that, none of that is animal, right? I mean, coffee was, well, watch the Tony Hampton video because it's really interesting. It's actually like a fruit. It's definitely not an animal. It did not have a heartbeat. It did not have eyes. We tolerate coffee based on its effects rather than where it came from. I think cacao deserves at least a little piece of this conversation. I want to be very clear that coffee and cacao are not the same thing. Coffee is much more caffeine dominant, but cacao contains some caffeine. One of the major compounds is called theobromine. A carnivore consciousness, we don't know what fucking theobromine means. So I have to look up all these videos after I've done a little bit of research. I guess chemically it's a cousin of caffeine. It's generally milder. It's two different stimulant profiles. That's, I guess, the easiest way that I can break down theobromine. But stimulants aren't the only thing interesting about cacao. Also pretty mineral dense. It contains magnesium, iron, copper, manganese, and potassium. And automatically I'm thinking magnesium and potassium because that's one of the things that's in the electrolytes that we're all snorting up. And so it just kind of like boom when I was looking into that. The connection was there. So it made me think there might actually be powerful benefits to using a little bit of cacao. Doesn't mean, you know, cacao automatically is good for you. Obviously, that's just like it has those compounds in it. If you've been carnivore, you do know that all plants have neurotoxins in them. Whether that means they're going to kill you or whatever, that's your own. You can come up with your own ideology on that stuff. We don't care if you're even carnivore here. We're just exploring things. We're observing things. Then there's also legitimate arguments, you know, against cacao. And the same could be said with caffeine or coffee. Oxalates, individual sensitivity, heavy metal combinations can be real concern, you know, depending on the brand and where you're getting it sourced. You're going to have to do your own research if you're going to decide that cacao can exist in your diet. But then we have to talk about the dose here, because we're not talking about the standard American Hershey's chocolate bar, or what was my favorite chocolate bar was the chocolate crunch bar. I do have a way to make those that are all carnivore. Different ways that I make these chocolate bars. I've experimented so much, and I will not use artificial sweeteners other than vanilla. We're talking about a tablespoon or a cup or a half cup distributed over a whole recipe. We're not talking about a large consumption of it. Another really interesting thing about cacao and theobromine, it comes from Theobroma, which translates to foods for the gods. Weird, if you look, like I started doing the research on it, and historically, it's really interesting, powerfully, almost as impactful as coffee. I got civilizations. The kings and queens ate the meats and these lavish things. They had the coffees, the teas, and the peasants had the potatoes, the fruits, the vegetables, and the bread. It's kind of the same way now. Long before cocoa powder, chocolate was around, cacao was around for a very long time. It was used in Mesoamerica as basically like drinks. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that shows that. Mayans and Aztecs placed a high value on cacao. Cacao was even used as a form of currency at one time. It sent me down that rabbit hole of the history of, like, you know, the kings, the queens eating the meat, and the poor and the whatnot eating the shit. Modern understanding of chocolate was not really realistic, because that's all processed chocolate. We know that. A modern candy bar or chocolate is usually combined with chemicals and processed sugars. So we're not talking about that. Purely cacao powder, not 80%. I'm talking about you do your research and you find the best value that you can get for your diet. I think that's why the distinction kind of matters and why the conversation matters. Take the chocolate pudding that I make, for instance. The foundation isn't sugar. The foundation isn't even chocolate. It's actually eggs and heavy cream. Use that cacao as the experiment to see, you know, how is this going to affect my body in these small amounts. Eventually led into chocolate ice cream, fudgicles, chocolate bars, chocolate brownies, chocolate pancakes, a whole slew of chocolate stuff that I definitely experimented with. These aren't excuses to start eating conventional candy bars. It's just a way to add it to your diet. Now, I want to be able to make my kid like completely healthy foods, but I understand he's going to want the stuff that's sweet and tastes sweet. And that's why we make the pancakes. We do all this fun stuff. And it also makes the diet fun. Did I feel any negative effects from adding cacao? I have not. I have not seen any negative effects. The only thing is when I first started doing like the chocolate and stuff, it was a hard time controlling it because it had been so long since I had chocolate. But really, when you ultimately look at like the macronutrients of like the pudding or the chocolate bar, or the chocolate ice cream, it's not gonna fucking kill you. If you're like me and you have fitness goals, and you want to obtain just more than your average standard physique, then you do have to monitor how you're using it and how it has a place in your diet. But having it on deck for your kid or other people to try and just maybe use that as the, hey, you know, carnivore can be fun too. Still do believe strict 90 days when you start. I mean, Lion's diet, I believe everybody should try it that way. So it was from the mindset of, you got to be strict, you know. And I still am in a lot of senses that way because of the artificial sweeteners. That's why we brought in the glycine. There's other people just adding in like cocoa powder or even like chocolate protein. And it's like, dude, I get it. Probably start with a baseline. So if you're new to carnivore, this probably wouldn't apply to you. Things that I added in became baselines to figure out how to maximize nutrient density while remaining completely carnivore. So now I've been experimenting with cacao. This journey is a long time. I'm 2 years carnivore now. And some of the things that I've been talking about recently are 9 months ago, 10 months ago. I'm trying to pay attention to every change as it happens and document it as I go. This isn't even about cheating on carnivore or having cheat meals. Because if you know the carnivore consciousness, we want to add nutrient density to our diets at all times. That's really the goal. Coffee adds something. Well, it's a stimulant. Coffee, it cures my appetite. It gives me energy right away. It's ritualistic. It's something I can do with the Joes and Joettes. It does have value for me, and it remained a part of my system. If I introduced something and my energy got worse or my digestion got worse, I was able to establish that baseline. Not just trying to create foods and add things in and slap the carnivore on it. We're actually trying to mold the diet for an existence that works with our goals. That's where the carnivore consciousness comes in. Reality presents information. My job, your job, isn't to force the answer we want. It's to observe what happens. We are analyzing it, testing maybe assumptions, and we're paying attention to results. And we're also going to respond accordingly. Because ultimately, I'm more interested in building something that's sustainable for my whole life than arguing about a label or a diet or a collective. Am I adding the cacao regularly? Yeah, because I have the chocolate pudding almost daily. I've seen no adverse effects. Is chocolate carnivore? Technically, no, but neither is coffee. If your version of carnivore consists of completely zero plants, then obviously this discussion, this thought process isn't really a concern of yours. I respect the strict carnivores because a lot of people did not respect that when I was doing that. I did that for 9 months, literally, completely. So now I want to turn it over to you guys. Does coffee get a pass for you? Does cacao or chocolate interest you in any sort of way? More importantly, why do the other things get the pass and the label, but oftentimes chocolate doesn't? Okay, Joe and Joettes, thanks for joining in on this discussion. Observe, remain aligned, respond, adapt, and stay conscious of what's going on. If you found any sort of value in this content, please, like it, subscribe, share it, whatever. I'm just presenting information out there based on my own personal observations. And I'm trying to create a community of consciousness where we can grow together. And healthy eating is just the beginning of the channel. So, grab your cup of Joe and have yourself a hot cocoa and a good day. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.